Finally, some good news on the stimulus front. It's like a Cyber Monday Christmas miracle. We'll get to the big stimulus news here in just a moment and what it means for stimulus maybe within the next 10 days. Could it be? We'll get to all of that in just a moment. But first, Dana Bash over at CNN really took Roy Blunt to task, the Missouri senator, over the failure of Congress to pass any meaningful stimulus. And it was a rare moment of contrition, I think, from a sitting senator to say, you know what? Yeah, we've been total failures, at least for a moment. But the way that Dana Bash actually sets this up, I think sets the stage for how the rest of this interview is going to go. Just listen to how she sets this question up.
The United States reached 2,000 deaths per day. Tens of millions of Americans are going hungry this Thanksgiving. Unemployment benefits ran out months ago for some. Others, the extensions will run out next month. Congress has completely failed to do anything in recent months. So will you help struggling Americans before Congress adjourns this year?
Well, I hope so. I've been one of the major advocates that we need to do this. We need to do this now. We need to continue the funding for the vaccine, the delivery of the vaccine. We need to stabilize through that the payroll protection effort that worked so well. Direct money to struggling families would be helpful, and some extension of unemployment. But the problem was that our friends on the other side of the building thought,
oh, here we go. So yes, we've been a failure, but the problem was, even though we're in the majority in the Senate, and there's a HEROES Act sitting on the desk that we could have actually gone through. And yes, if it was large, it had a lot of liberal bloat programs in there. Great. Whittle it down. Do what you need to do. But you didn't. So you want to point the finger over at the people who are in the minority in the Senate? You are in the majority. Let me remind you
that it was $2.4 trillion or nothing. Half of that would have made a big difference.
Point of order. Again, it was $3.5 trillion. They lopped off over $1 trillion in order to come down. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. But let's be factual here, shall we, Roy?
And then after the first of the year, we could have dealt with this again. I think it's a huge failure on the part of the Congress, and I'm disappointed by it. The president was prepared to sign almost any size bill. I think they didn't want to give him that bill before the election, and now we can't seem to figure out how to give it to him after the election.
Well, yeah, you could actually come together and come up with some compromise. But remember, the president said he wanted a bill that was larger than anything that the Republicans or Democrats wanted. Mitch McConnell, your Senate Majority Leader, has been the obstructionist in all of this. In fact, called on the president to not work with Nancy Pelosi for stimulus before the election. You can do all the revisionist history you like, but facts are facts. So what is all of this good news that I'm so excited about on this Cyber Monday night? Well, it has to do with a group of bipartisan senators coming together across the aisle to revive stimulus talks. I was surprised by this news. Politico first breaking this story just a short time ago. There's Chris Coons coming together as cases and deaths spike across the United States. There are several groups of discussions right now. So let me go through a couple of these key areas here. So this, again, a bipartisan group of senators. We just learned from Politico just a short time ago are working. They've been working over the Thanksgiving break. Wow, they're actually working. Now, it's through Zoom calls, phone calls. They're not meeting in person. There are several discussions, and the senators involved in them right now are Chris Coons, who we just saw from Delaware. He's a Democrat. Joe Manchin, a Democrat from West Virginia. Mitt Romney, a Republican from Utah. Susan Collins from Maine. Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Mark Warner, a Democrat from Virginia, Rob Portman from Ohio, Republican, Bill Cassidy, a Republican from Louisiana, Jeanne Shaheen, a Democrat from New Hampshire, and Michael Bennet, a Democrat from Colorado. Now, the Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin has also been involved in the discussions, which is good news because obviously he has the ear of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and so this could mean some big moves on the stimulus before that December 11th deadline where we need to have the government stay open. Okay, so what are they talking about? Now, not to get anyone's hopes up, but the fact that they're ironing out a couple of key areas that they might be able to stick inside of this continuing resolution to keep the government open. I think that's how this is starting to shape up, according to my sources and according to what I'm seeing from Politico on this evening. So, one source familiar with the effort said that the senators involved in the talks hope to produce a proposal this week. This week, we could see a new stimulus proposal. That's fantastic. Could it be part of the continuing resolution to keep the government open? That remains to be seen. So what are the key discussion parts? They want to talk about specifically whether they can get additional PPP money for businesses to remain open. They want to make sure that expanded unemployment insurance and eviction moratoriums. These have been a huge piece of the things that I've been calling for a number of months. I believe we are sitting on the verge of a major housing crisis, and I will talk about that more on tomorrow's show. Be sure, if you're not a subscriber already to my channel, come on. We do our show every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So subscribe to the channel and smash that like button. We'll talk more about that on the show tomorrow. But anyway, back to the news. So eviction moratoriums from this spring's massive CARES Act, okay? Those are expiring at the end of the year. We must do something about that. And I'm a landlord. I don't want anyone evicted. And I don't want what's about to happen to our nation, because it's going to be a bloodbath with people that are homeless. Their credit scores are ruined. They cannot find affordable housing. We already have an affordable housing crisis in this country. Eviction moratoriums, rental assistance must be on the table. And we need additional money for people. That additional $600 per week, which is part of what they're discussing right now, needs to be extended. That provided a safety net, a little bit of a cushion for people to get through from September and October when those benefits ran out at the end of July. Incredibly important that we extend those unemployment insurance benefits. That's part of this. Also, potential coronavirus relief in the form of PPE, making sure that hospitals and so forth are equipped to be able to handle this, and vaccine distribution. Moderna today is submitting their vaccine with a 94% effective rate for approval. So Moderna is the first to the table here. How can we deploy, making sure that we have refrigeration setups in different pharmacies to be able to handle the amount of vaccines that are going to be needed across the country? So the discussions are coming right now as the rest of Capitol Hill has sputtered to a halt. They have not been able to get anything done. Senator Warner from Virginia said it would be stupidity on steroids if Congress didn't act before the holidays. Both sides. Here's another quote from Mitch McConnell. No, this comes from Warner, who said this. He said, this is right after Politico published a story. So this is from the senator's office just a few moments ago. He said, both sides are going to have to compromise. The Democrats aren't going to get what they want with their $2 trillion plan. And clearly the so-called skinny plan that Mitch McConnell put out there is not nearly enough to provide a bridge. So one source familiar with the effort said the senators involved in the talks hope to have this thing done by this week. This is a big deal. Why this matters is because it's the most significant bipartisan step towards COVID relief in months. The reason I'm doing this story, this is the most significant news we've had on this front in months, since well before the election. But, there's only a small chance that this will pass. We need a comprehensive stimulus package, and we need to get it done now. I don't know that it's going to pass, and we may have to wait until after January 5th when we have the runoff elections in Georgia. Whether or not the Trump administration would want to sign anything before then, it all remains to be seen. But this is positive. If they can come down from that $2.5 trillion on Nancy Pelosi's side and come up from $500 billion on Mitch McConnell's side, we may actually get something. So look for a key proposal this week from this bipartisan group of senators. I'm hoping that we get some movement on this. I'm fingers crossed that we get some movement on this stimulus checks by the end of the week or middle of this week when the House of Representatives comes back to work on Wednesday. So if you're new here, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. We cover the economy. We cover business news that's not tied to Wall Street. So all those Wall Street rich guys, that's not what we focus on here. We focus on you, making sure that you don't get screwed over by these guys. you don't get railroaded by Congress, and we bring you the truth right here every day at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So please subscribe to the channel and smash that like button. We will see you back here tomorrow morning, first thing, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Till then, everyone, be safe. Much love to all of you.